I wanted to give a shout out to the UK Parliament, the House of Commons, because they have now moved forward with legislation that would allow some terminally ill people to end life on their own terms instead of suffering needlessly because the law forces them to stay alive against their will. It's just this extremely compassionate legislation that just passed the first hurdle. Let me show you what this bill is all about. This is what it actually is, the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill. And it's a 38-page document. And basically, here's the crux of the story. They voted on this bill. The final vote was 330 to 275 in favor of passing it. So it passed. But the specifics here are kind of amazing, all right? The vote came after hours of debate, and they are now going to proceed to the next phase where this is going to be scrutinized by politicians in committees and amendments can be proposed. And I don't know if this is going to become a law, but again, it passed the first hurdle, and that is a huge step that I did not know was going to happen, okay? But here's the way this bill works. And I'm going to tell Den right now that I got one more story after this. I just forgot, but I'll pull it up in a second. But here's what this bill does. This bill would apply to a small group of individuals in absolutely horrific situations. The way this bill works, if you are over 18, legal adult, and diagnosed with an illness that is going to end your life within 6 months, only then are you eligible to take advantage of it. And that's sensible. 2 doctors and a judge have to sign off on your request to end your life, and they have to do it at least 7 days apart, which is sensible, but it also prolongs the pain. And this is interesting. Any medication you take to end life has to be self-administered, which means if there are people who don't have the ability to feed themselves, they just have to keep suffering. And so I think that one gets a little too narrow. But the basis here, the idea here is to make sure that people who are simply depressed, elderly, or pressured by their family or people close to them to end their life for shady reasons, we don't want them taking advantage of the opportunity. So that's why they have all these rules and hurdles everyone has to jump through. But that means a lot of people who could benefit from a death with dignity law are still going to be left behind. So this bill is very narrow, too narrow for my approval, but it's something. And the downside to having a bill this narrow is that means a lot of people who are suffering and are just, they have no cure, they're going to die, but they have no way out. That means their options are to just keep suffering or maybe go to Switzerland, which is what's happening right now because these procedures are legal there. The way one proponent of the bill put it, it's that the current options for people in need are suffering, Switzerland, or suicide. And in England and Wales, assisting someone who wants to end their life can land you in jail for 14 years. That's what they are trying to fix with this bill. Now, what's amazing about this is that as it was proposed, they went ahead and debated it for several hours. And the Labour Party, the now majority party in Parliament, they did not whip votes on this issue. They didn't say, hey, you have to vote the way we want you to vote or else. They said, you know what? You all do what you want and we're not going to punish you one way or the other. You all have the freedom to vote however you want. And the Tory party, the more conservative party, they said the same thing. They said, do whatever the hell you all want, which is kind of amazing to have a bill that's this consequential where they're not telling everyone, members, how to vote. But the reason for that is this is kind of a popular thing. Look at this. This is taken by a nonprofit called More in Common, which supports this bill. But they said the support for assisted dying, it doesn't matter. Like, just look at the gender balance right there. I'm pointing the wrong way. Whatever. You get the idea. It's there. Like, the blue means you support it. And the overwhelming majority of Brits, whether you're male or female, regardless of your education level, which nation you live in, your age, even. A lot of people support this or they have no opinion on it. Very few people think we should keep the suffering going. You know what I mean? So that's why they didn't want to tell people how to vote on this. And so they went ahead and passed this bill. Andrew Copson, who is the head of a group called Humanists UK, he was very happy with this because his group has been advocating for this sort of bill for a long time. This is what he said: Parliament has taken a historic first step to meet the aspirations of the public, who overwhelmingly support having choice, dignity, and compassion at the end of their lives. We welcome this and look forward to further work on the legislation. So that's awesome. That is wonderful that they're doing this. And one other thing he pointed out is this vote shows that members of parliament see the need to introduce real safeguards to our law where there are currently none. So, yeah, there are going to be amendments to this. And I don't know what they're going to do because right now a lot of people are suffering and they have nowhere to go with it. One of the polls commissioned by Humanists UK actually found higher rates of support. They did it by religion and stuff. Their poll found that 83% of the non religious and 65% of Christians supported assisted dying. That's fascinating. And 81% of the non religious and 64% of Christians said it was okay for a doctor to help instead of this bill, which says you have to take your own medicine. Okay. So broadly, there is support for this bill, even regardless of your religion. So what do you think the religious arguments were against this bill? Because the opponents were your usual suspects: conservatives, Catholics. They reject the practice of assisted death. They would rather see patients suffer from incurable diseases instead of allowing them to have peace and going out on their own terms. By the way, in Canada, where this procedure is legal, a woman who was taken to a Catholic hospital was forced to suffer because they refused to help her in this case, and her family is now suing the provincial government and the hospital. But right now in the UK, what did they do? This is what the Church of England's representative said. The Church of England's lead bishop for healthcare, Dame Sarah Mullally, said that safeguarding the vulnerable must now be our priority. Like, if you're all going to pass this bill, we got to make sure virtually no one gets to use it. That's where she's going with this, because they did not want anyone to take advantage of this bill. I saw articles where some of the Tories said, we don't like this bill. We think we should improve the National Health Service instead, which is honestly very rich, coming from a party that has chronically underfunded the NHS while also moving the goalposts out of the stadium. They don't want to make healthcare better. They've actively made healthcare worse in a country where you have access to healthcare. So, like, don't take them seriously. There's another guy, too, another bishop I wanted to point out. Check this out. After the vote, Bishop Mark Davies of Shrewsbury said, "It is a dark day for our country when the Christian witness to genuine compassion and the value of human life is more needed than ever." He said it's a dark day for our country because people said they voted to say maybe people who are dying miserably should suffer less. And this guy's like, what? How could you do that? What a dark day for humanity that you won't force these people to suffer more. That's where the religious side is coming in on this. And you know it's bad when even like politicians who have no business doing the right thing ever are doing the right thing. Check this out. This is one of the people who voted for this bill was Rishi Sunak, the former prime minister. He was among the 23 conservative MPs who backed the bill, and he wrote in his local paper, I believe that where possible, we should prevent suffering. I know from speaking and listening to many of you that too many people have to go through painful, traumatic, drawn out deaths. And I didn't highlight this, but these moving, deeply personal stories have left a profound impression on me. And I gotta say, I think that's the first thing he's ever said where I'm like, yeah, dude, you get it. Wow. Like, I want to applaud the dude, and I'm kind of wondering where that guy was when he was prime minister, but all right. Good. He did the right thing this one time. Good. So, again, as more members weigh in with amendments, there will hopefully be public pressure to make sure this bill keeps overcoming whatever hurdles it needs. But I think for as controversial a bill as this is, it's kind of encouraging to see it pass. So, a little bit of hope out there. I'll take questions on that. And then I lied. I'm going to do one more story right after this. But what questions do we have here? Self-administered. So that means you could want to do it sooner before you're unable to do it. I mean, what you are referring to is something that is technically illegal right now. I mean, could you take your own life? I mean, you could, but that's not what we're talking about. And no one is encouraging that. They're saying if you want to, if you are going to die in the next 6 months, because doctors say you have an incurable disease, you have no other option. Right now, the doctors cannot help you end your life. And what this bill would do is to say, if you want to take the pill, you can do it, assuming you meet all the regulatory eligibility hurdles. That's it. I don't want to say anything that seems wrong or insensitive there. Death with dignity laws are a genuine act of mercy. If you've ever spent time with someone who is slowly dying, it's horrible. I can imagine that those who are opposed to this have never even seen it. Yeah, seriously, I think the name of the guy is Tony Nicholson. I think he was a UK guy who was suffering a tragic end of his life, and he advocated for a bill like this. And obviously, it didn't pass in time because this is years ago. But if you look up pictures of the guy, and I can't remember if that's his name or not, but if you look up pictures, there are pictures of people in agony because they are suffering every day and they just want it to end, and they have made peace with everything, and they have said their goodbyes, and the law is forcing them to keep suffering. It's just completely inhumane. Sounds like it's too narrow. I agree. Unlike the dystopian situation with the Canada version of this law, not sure how to fix it, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like Obamacare. It's like, it's not enough, but it's a start. And if you ever elect good people, they can keep improving on it. But at some point, you got to just take that first one and you got to do something so that people get a little more comfortable with the idea. So I'm not blaming them for a very narrow law as long as we can just get this one done, because then you can improve on it. It's not going to be perfect from step one. Just saying that involving the government in a personal decision led to the current situation with the abortion debates. Yep. I don't know why you want to get the government involved in healthcare decisions, but that's what the law is right now when it comes to this issue in the UK, and it's a bad one. Take it from me as someone who doesn't have guaranteed healthcare, but does have a lot of Republicans who want to control healthcare. It's bad. No one wants what America has. It's horrible. There isn't a civilized country in the world that wants American healthcare and want to trade what they have for it, because everyone else in the world makes fun of our healthcare system, and rightly so.